I was halfway down Miller Street, rain hammering my shoulders, when I realized I'd left everything that mattered back at the restaurant. My wallet, my keys, my mother's locket, the only thing I had left of her. I stopped under a broken streetlight, water pooling in my shoes, and actually laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind that comes when you're so far past crying that your body doesn't know what else to do. 20 minutes ago, my boss had just told me he'd lost the restaurant in a poker game. The Marrow House. The place I'd given 5 years of my life to.
Gone.
Because Ronan Keats thought a pair of jacks could save his father's legacy. I should have kept walking home. Should have let my things stay there overnight. But that locket, I couldn't leave it. So I turned around, my coat heavy with rain, and headed back toward the one place I never wanted to see again. The streetlights blurred as I walked. My mind kept replaying Ronan's words. I thought I could win it back, Corinne. I really did. His hands had been shaking when he said it. Not from fear. From withdrawal. From knowing he destroyed something his father had built with bare hands and decades of early mornings. I'd trusted him. Believed in him when everyone else whispered warnings in the kitchen. When the wine supplier stopped returning calls. When paychecks came a day late, then 2 days, then with mumbled apologies. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. The Marrow House sat quiet when I got there, but the lights were still on. Strange. We'd closed 2 hours ago. I always turned everything off before leaving. Habit from years of Ronan forgetting and the electric bill climbing. I moved toward the back in trance, my hand on the door handle, when I heard voices inside.
Low.
Serious. Not the kind of conversation you have after closing time unless something's wrong. I should have knocked. Should have announced myself. Instead, I eased the door open, it never latched right anyway, and slipped inside like a shadow. The voices grew clearer as I crept toward the dining room. I ducked behind the bar, my heart suddenly loud in my ears. You know the rules, Keats. The voice wasn't Ronan's.
Deeper.
Older. Rough around the edges like gravel in a bucket. A bet's a bet. The Marrow House is mine now. I peeked around the corner. Ronan sat at table 7, our best table, the one by the window, across from a man I'd never seen before. Gray hair slicked back. Expensive suit that didn't quite hide his gut. A gold ring on his finger that caught the candlelight. Between them sat a briefcase. Please, Ronan said, and I'd never heard him beg before. This place is all I have left. My father. Should have raised you better, the man interrupted. His laugh had no warmth in it. Tell you what, I'm not heartless. I'll give you 1 month to clear out. After that, my people take over. He slid the briefcase across the table. The latches clicked open like gunshots in the quiet. Here's your buyout. 30,000. More than you deserve, honestly. Ronan stared at the case but didn't touch it. His face had gone pale, almost gray. He looked 10 years older than he had that afternoon. The man's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, frowned at the screen, then stood. I need to take this. Don't go anywhere. He walked toward the front entrance, his voice fading as he stepped outside. And Ronan just sat there, frozen, staring at that open briefcase like it might bite him. I don't know what made me do it.
Curiosity. Rage.
The reckless feeling you get when everything's already broken and there's nothing left to lose. I stood up and moved closer. From where I was, I could see inside the case. Not money, well, some money bundled on one side, but mostly paperwork. Documents. Legal forms with official stamps. My eyes scanned the pages, not really reading, just looking for something that made sense of this nightmare.
Then I saw it.
My name, Corinne Daly, in bold letters at the top of a transfer document. Manager of Operations. And underneath, in the signature line, my signature. My actual handwriting, the looping C, and the way I always cross my D too high. But I'd never signed this. I'd never even seen this document before. My hands started shaking. I looked at Ronan, and he must have felt my eyes on him, because his head snapped up. When he saw me standing there, the color drained completely from his face. Corinne. What is this? My voice came out steady, cold. Why is my name on this? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I can explain. Did you forge my signature? The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. What had he done? I had to. Ronan's words tumbled out fast, desperate. You don't understand. Then make me understand. I grabbed the document from the briefcase, my hand shaking so hard the paper rattled. Make me understand why my name is on a legal document I never signed. Why you tie me to your mess. He stood up, reaching toward me like that would somehow fix this. The transfer needed a manager listed. Someone the bank would recognize. Someone with clean credit. You were the only one. So, you committed fraud. The word hung in the air between us, sharp and ugly. You forged my signature to make your gambling debt look legitimate. His face crumpled. I thought I'd fix it before anyone noticed. I thought. You thought wrong. I folded the document and shoved it in my coat pocket. My heart was hammering so hard I could barely hear my own thoughts. Do you have any idea what you've done? If this goes through, I'm liable.
Me.
For your debt. For whatever deal you made with that man. Ronan sank back into his chair. I'm sorry. God, Corinne, I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
Like that word could undo forgery. Like it could erase my name from legal documents I never agreed to. The front door opened. The gray-haired man walked back in, pocketing his phone. He stopped when he saw me standing there, briefcase open, document in my pocket. His eyes narrowed. Who's this? Nobody, Ronan said quickly. Just an employee. She was leaving. Actually, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, I'm the manager of operations. At least according to your paperwork. The man's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered behind his eyes. He looked at Ronan. You told her? She saw the documents. Then she knows this is none of her business. He turned to me, his smile all teeth and no warmth. Whatever you think you saw, sweetheart, forget it. This is between me and Keats. Sweetheart. Like I was some clueless kid who'd stumbled into the wrong room. Hard to forget when my signature's been forged onto your transfer papers. I held his gaze, refusing to look away. That makes it my business. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. The man's smile vanished completely. Is that so? It wasn't a question. It was a threat wrapped in 3 words. Ronan stood up fast, putting himself between us. She won't say anything. Right, Corinne? You won't. I haven't decided yet. I stepped back toward the bar, putting distance between myself and both of them. But I will tell you this. That document's not worth the paper it's printed on if the signature's fraudulent. Which means your deal isn't as solid as you think. The gray-haired man stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Smart girl. But you're playing a dangerous game. I'm not playing anything. I'm just telling you the facts. He closed the briefcase with a sharp click. Let me give you some facts, Miss Daly. Ronan here owes me a lot more than this restaurant. The Marrow house barely covers half his debt. So, if you're thinking about making trouble, think harder. He picked up the briefcase and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. 1 month, Keats. Get your affairs in order. And keep your employees quiet. The door swung shut behind him. The bell above it chimed once, cheerful and completely out of place. Ronan and I stood in silence. Rain drummed against the windows. Somewhere in the kitchen, a faucet dripped. How much do you owe him? I finally asked. Ronan wouldn't look at me. 60,000. Maybe more. I lost track. 60,000. The restaurant was worth maybe 90 on a good day, and that was being generous. This place, with its creaky floors and outdated kitchen and loyal but small customer base, it couldn't save him. And now my name was tangled up in his disaster. I need to go. I grabbed my bag from the staff room, checked that the locket was still inside. My hands were still shaking. Corinne, please. Don't. I held up a hand. Don't ask me for anything else. You've taken enough. I walked out the back door into the rain. This time, I didn't look back. But as I walked home, Water soaking through my shoes again. Something strange happened. The fear started to burn away. And underneath it, underneath the shock and betrayal, I found something else. Anger. Cold and sharp and clear. Ronan had gambled away his father's restaurant. He'd forged my signature. He'd tried to drag me down with him. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated me. And that gray-haired man, with his threats and his expensive suit and his assumption that I'd stay quiet, he'd made the same mistake. By the time I reached my apartment, I wasn't shaking anymore. I was planning. Would you stay silent, or would you fight back? I didn't sleep that night.
Couldn't.
Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that document with my forged signature. Saw that man's cold smile. Heard Ronan's pathetic apology echoing in my head. By 3 a.m, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going down for someone else's mistakes. Not this time. Not ever again. At 8, I called Maeve Quinn. She'd been the restaurant's accountant until she retired 2 years back, moved to a little house by the lake, spent her days fishing and reading mystery novels. But before that, she'd spent 40 years doing books for half the businesses in town. More importantly, she'd always liked me. Corinne? Her voice was scratchy with sleep. It's barely dawn, girl. What's wrong? Everything. I told her the whole story. The poker game. The forged signature. The gray-haired man with his briefcase and his threats. The silence that followed lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. Then Maeve laughed. Actually laughed. A sharp, delighted sound that made me pull the phone away from my ear. Well, she said, still chuckling. Looks like Golden Boy Ronan finally got what's coming. About time. Maeve, I need help. My name's on those documents. If this goes through. It won't. Her voice turned serious. Not if we move fast. That forged signature? That's fraud. Invalidates the whole transfer. But you need to file a claim immediately before anything gets finalized. How do I? Come to my house. Bring every document you can get your hands on. Pay stubs, old contracts, anything with your real signature on it. We'll need proof the signature's forged. I grabbed my coat. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Maeve's house smelled like coffee and old books. She'd already cleared her dining table, set up files and folders like she was preparing for battle. Which, I guess, she was.
Sit.
She poured me coffee in a chipped mug that said world's okayest accountant. Now show me everything. I handed her the document I'd taken from the briefcase. She studied it carefully, pulling out a magnifying glass like some kind of detective. Sloppy work, she muttered. Your signature loop's left. This one loop's right. And the pen pressure's all wrong. Whoever forged this didn't even try. Ronan did it himself. I'd bet anything. Probably. She set the paper down. Here's what we're going to do. First, we file a fraud claim with the county clerk. That'll freeze any property transfers pending investigation. Second, we get a handwriting expert to verify the forgery. I know a guy owes me a favor. Third. She smiled, and it wasn't entirely kind. Third, we go on offense. What do you mean? Ronan's desperate. That man he's dealing with is dangerous. But here's the thing about desperate people, they make stupid choices. And stupid choices leave openings. She leaned forward. Tell me, do you want to just protect yourself? Or do you want to actually save the restaurant? I blinked. Save it?
How?
The Marrow house is worth about $90,000 on paper. Ronan owes $60,000. That leaves $30,000 in equity if we can get to it before that loan shark does. I don't have $30,000.
No.
But I do. She tapped the table. And the city has a small business revitalization grant program for established businesses in danger of closing. I helped write the guidelines back in the day. My heart started beating faster. You're saying? I'm saying if you can come up with 20% of the purchase price, the grant will cover the rest. But you'd need to move fast. Real fast. And you'd need to prove you're a better owner than Ronan ever was. 20% of $90,000. $18,000. I had maybe $4,000 in savings. My car was worth $6,000 tops. That left 8,000 short. I can't. I'll loan you the difference. Maeve cut me off. Consider it an investment. I always knew you were the real backbone of that place. I stared at her. Why would you do this? She shrugged. Because Ronan's father was a good man who built something beautiful. And I'll be damned if I watch his son piss it away at a poker table. Also, her smile turned sharp again. I really hate loan sharks. But if this doesn't work, then we both lose some money and Ronan learns a valuable lesson about forging signatures. But if it does work, she raised her coffee mug. You'll own the Marrow house. Free and clear. And that loan shark will have to find someone else to terrorize. The idea was insane. Impossible. I'd never owned anything bigger than a used Honda Civic. But as I sat there, looking at this 70-year-old retired accountant who just offered to help me fight back against fraud and gambling debts and dangerous men, I realized something. I wanted this. Not just to protect myself. Not just to get revenge on Ronan. I wanted to save the Marrow house. For real. Make it mine. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Maeve grinned. That's my girl. Now finish your coffee. We've got paperwork to file and a restaurant to steal.
Steal.
That's what it would feel like to Ronan anyway. But you can't steal something that was never really someone's to begin with. And the Marrow house? Ronan had already thrown it away. I was just catching it before it hit the ground. What would you do with a second chance? The county clerk's office opened at 9. Maeve and I were there at 8:55, armed with documents and determination. The woman behind the desk looked bored until Maeve slid the fraud claim across the counter. Then her eyebrows went up. Property transfer fraud? She studied the paperwork. This could take weeks to process. We don't have weeks, Maeve said crisply. That's why we're requesting an emergency freeze on all transfers related to the property. Here's the documentation proving signature forgery. She handed over a folder thick with papers, side-by-side signature comparisons, my employment records, even old birthday cards I'd signed for Ronan's father years ago. Everything showed my real signature looked nothing like the one on those transfer documents. The clerk flipped through it all, her expression shifting from bored to interested to slightly impressed. You came prepared. Always do. Maeve smiled sweetly.
So,
how fast can we get that freeze? I'll submit it today. Should be processed by tomorrow morning. She stamped several forms. But I should warn you, the other party can challenge this. Especially if they've got money for lawyers. Let them try, I said. My voice sounded braver than I felt. Outside, the morning sun was burning off the clouds. Maeve pulled out her phone and made 3 calls in rapid succession to her handwriting expert friend, to someone at City Hall about the revitalization grant, and to her own lawyer. I just stood there, trying to process that I'd actually done it. Filed fraud charges against my boss. Put my name on legal documents that could either save me or destroy me. Done, Maeve announced, pocketing her phone. Grant application submitted. Marcus, my handwriting guy, will have his analysis done by Friday. And my lawyer's drafting a purchase offer for the restaurant, pending grant approval. That fast. Sweetheart, I've been waiting years for a project like this. Finally, something more interesting than balancing checkbooks. She patted my shoulder. Now comes the hard part. What hard part? Waiting. And not telling Ronan what we're doing. That second part would be easier than the first. I hadn't spoken to Ronan since I'd walked out last night. Hadn't even texted. Part of me wondered if he'd tried to call. I'd turned my phone off after calling Maeve. When I finally turned it back on, there were 17 missed calls. All from Ronan. And 1 text message from a number I didn't recognize. Smart girls know when to keep their mouths shut. Be smart. My hands went cold. I showed it to Maeve. Her jaw tightened. That loan shark. Trying to scare you. It's working. Don't let it. She grabbed my phone and blocked the number. Bullies count on fear. But here's what they don't count on: people who fight back with lawyers and paperwork. Much scarier than threats. I wanted to believe her. But that night, lying in bed, every sound made me jump. Every car passing outside could be him. Every creak of the building could be someone breaking in. I'd never been threatened before. Not like this. Not by someone who'd looked me in the eye and told me I was playing a dangerous game. Maybe I was. But I'd already filed the claim. Already started the process. There was no backing out now. Friday came faster than I expected. Marcus, the handwriting expert, sent his report directly to the county clerk and copied us. I read it 3 times, hardly believing what I was seeing. Clear evidence of forgery. The pressure patterns, letter formation, and signature flow are inconsistent with the verified samples. This signature was not executed by Corinne Daly. It was official, documented, irrefutable. The transfer freeze went through that afternoon. Maeve called me at 6, her voice bright with victory. It's done. The restaurant can't legally change hands until the fraud investigation is complete. And that investigation could take months. What happens to Ronan? Honestly, depends on whether that loan shark decides to press charges or just take his losses. Either way, Ronan's in deep trouble. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. What about her offer? I asked. Submitted this morning. Grant committee meets Wednesday. If they approve, and they will, I made sure of that, you'll have the funding to buy the restaurant outright. And if Ronan refuses to sell? Maeve's laugh was sharp. He's broke, facing fraud charges, and owes 60 grand to a man who makes his living off other people's misery. Trust me, he'll sell. That weekend, I finally returned one of Ronan's calls. He answered on the first ring. Corinne, thank God. I've been trying to reach you. I know what you've been trying to do. I interrupted. The fraud claim. The freeze. I stopped it. Silence. Then, you what? I stopped the transfer. Your deal with that loan shark? It's dead in the water. His voice rose. Do you have any idea what you've done? He's going to kill me. Literally kill me. Then you should have thought of that before you forged my signature. I was trying to protect you. If I'd told you, you were trying to protect yourself.
Don't pretend this was about me.
More silence. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Quieter.
Defeated.
What do you want? I want you to sell me the restaurant. He actually laughed. With what money? That's not your concern. I'm making you an offer. 90,000. Full asking price. You pay off your debt and walk away clean. And if I say no? Then the fraud investigation continues. You face charges. The loan shark gets nothing, and neither do you. Your father's restaurant gets seized by the city and auctioned off to strangers. The silence stretched, so long I thought he'd hung up. When do I get the offer? He finally asked. Monday. Look it over. Talk to your lawyer if you want. But Ronan. I kept my voice steady. This is your only way out. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking again. But this time, it wasn't from fear. It was from power. Would he take the deal, or would he let his pride destroy everything? Monday morning, I walked into the Marrow house for the first time since that night. The keys still worked. Ronan hadn't changed the locks. The dining room looked different in daylight. Smaller somehow. The tables I'd wiped down 1,000 times. The bar I'd hidden behind. The window booth, where families always sat. It could be mine. Really mine. Ronan sat at the same table where I'd found him with the loan shark. He looked awful, unshaven, bags under his eyes, his expensive suit wrinkled like he'd slept in it. Maybe he had. You actually came, he said. I said I would. I set my folder on the table. The offer's all here. 90,000. Grant-funded purchase. You get enough to pay off your debt and walk away. He didn't open the folder. Just stared at it like it might explode. My father built this place, he said quietly. With his own hands. I watched him sand these floors. Paint these walls. He died believing I'd take care of it. Then you should have taken care of it. His eyes met mine. I tried.
No.
You gambled. There's a difference. He flinched like I'd slapped him.
Good.
He should flinch. If I sign this, he said slowly, what happens to me? You take the money. Pay your debts. Start over somewhere else. Anywhere else. And you get my father's restaurant. I get the restaurant I helped run for 5 years while you played poker and ignored the bills.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. He finally opened the folder. Read through the offer page by page. His hands shook slightly, making the papers rustle. This is a good deal, he admitted. More than fair. I know.
Why?
Why offer fair when you could have just let me drown?
I thought about that.
About how easy it would have been to walk away. Let Ronan and the loan shark destroy each other. Let the Marrow house burn. Because your father was good to me, I said finally. When I needed a job and nobody else would hire me, he did. No questions asked. I owe him that much. Ronan's eyes got shiny. He looked away fast, blinking hard. He would have liked this, he whispered. You taking over. He always said you had more sense than me. He was right. Ronan pulled out a pen. His hand hovered over the signature line. If I do this, he said, I need something from you. My stomach tightened.
What?
Don't change the name. Keep calling it the Marrow House. Let people remember it was my father's, even if, his voice cracked. Even if they forget it was ever mine. Something in my chest twisted. Despite everything, the gambling, the forgery, the lies, he still loved this place. In his own broken, selfish way. Okay, I said. The name stays. He nodded once. Then he signed. 3 signatures. 1 on the sale agreement. 1 on the debt release. 1 on the transfer of ownership. Just like that, the Marrow house was mine. Ronan stood up slowly, like his bones hurt. He looked around the restaurant one last time. The tables, the bar, the kitchen door with its perpetually broken hinge. Take care of it, he said. I will. He walked to the door. Stopped with his hand on the handle. Corinne? I really am sorry. For all of it.
I didn't respond.
Couldn't. Sorry didn't undo forgery. Didn't give back the sleepless nights or the terror of being threatened. But it was something. The door closed behind him. The bell chimed once. And then I was alone in my restaurant. I walked behind the bar, ran my hand along the wood my father-in-law had sanded himself. Stood in the kitchen where I'd burned my first omelet and perfected my apple pie. Sat at the window booth, where proposals had happened and birthdays had been celebrated and life had unfolded, one meal at a time. This place had stories soaked into every board, memories in every corner, and now it was mine to protect. My phone buzzed. Maeve. Grant approved. Funds transferred. Paperwork filed. Congratulations, owner. Owner. I said it out loud, testing how it felt. I'm the owner of the Marrow house. It felt terrifying. Impossible.
Right.
The front door opened. I tensed, half expecting the loan shark to walk in with threats and demands. But it was just Mrs. Patterson, one of our regulars. She blinked in surprise at seeing me. Corinne, are you open? I was hoping for coffee. I smiled. Actually, we're under new management.
But yeah.
We're open. I made her coffee the way she liked it, 2 creams, 1 sugar, served in the blue mug she always requested. She settled into her usual spot by the window. And just like that, the Marrow house was alive again. Over the next few days, word spread. Ronan was gone. I was the new owner. The staff, the ones who'd stayed, came back cautiously, testing the waters. Are you really keeping us on? The line cook asked. If you want to stay. Same pay. Better hours. And I actually pay the vendors on time. They stayed. The restaurant hummed back to life. Tables filled. The kitchen smelled like garlic and fresh bread. Jazz floated from the speakers. 1 week after the sale, a man walked in at closing time. Gray hair. Expensive suit. Gold ring. The loan shark. My heart tried to climb out of my throat, but I kept my face neutral. We're closed. I can see that. He looked around, taking in the full tables, the happy customers, the thriving business Ronan had almost destroyed. Impressive. You really pulled this off. What do you want? Just wanted to see the girl who outplayed me. He smiled, but it still didn't reach his eyes.
Smart move.
The fraud claim. The grant. Very smart. I'm not interested in games. Neither am I. Not anymore. Not with you, anyway. He pulled out a business card and set it on the bar. Ronan paid his debt. We're square. But just so you know, you earn my respect. Not many people can say that. He walked to the door.
Paused.
Word of advice, Miss Daly? Stay smart. This world eats nice people for breakfast. But smart people. He tapped his temple. They survive. Then he was gone. I picked up his card and threw it in the trash. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in the empty restaurant. Candles still flickering on the tables. Jazz still playing softly. I thought about Ronan. About betrayal and forgery and desperate gambles. About how close I'd come to losing everything. But I hadn't lost. I'd fought back with paperwork and lawyers and a 70-year-old accountant who hated loan sharks. And I'd won. The Marrow house was mine. Not because someone gave it to me. Not because I inherited it. Because I'd earned it. The door opened one more time. Maeve walked in with 2 bottles of champagne. Thought you might want to celebrate properly, she said. I laughed. It's midnight. Perfect time for champagne. We sat at the bar, owner and accountant, friends and partners, and toasted to second chances.
To standing up.
To fighting back. To reclaiming what others thought they'd taken forever. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building something so beautiful they can't help but watch you succeed. And wondering what they could have had, if only they'd been smarter. If only they hadn't underestimated the waitress. What would you build with your second chance? The first month of ownership taught me more about running a business than 5 years of working tables ever had. Money was tighter than I'd expected. The grant covered the purchase, sure, but there were hidden costs everywhere. A leaking pipe in the bathroom. The walk-in freezer that kept breaking down. Vendor contracts Ronan had signed that locked us into terrible prices. I spent my nights at the dining room table with spreadsheets and invoices, trying to figure out how to keep us afloat. Maeve helped when she could, but even her accounting magic couldn't create money that didn't exist. We needed more customers. Better margins. Something to set us apart from every other restaurant in town. That's when I remembered the recipe book. Ronan's father had kept it in the office, a leather-bound journal filled with his handwritten notes. Recipes he'd created over 40 years. Dishes he'd served before the menu got simplified, back when the Marrow house was known for taking risks. I found it buried under old tax documents, pages yellowed with age. His handwriting was careful, precise. Each recipe had little notes in the margins. Customers loved this, or, too expensive, save for special occasions. One recipe caught my eye. Braised short ribs with cherry reduction. The note beside it said, "Made this for Mary's birthday."
She cried.
Good tears. Mary was Ronan's mother. She died before I started working here. I brought the book to our head cook, Marcus. He'd worked for Ronan's father back in the day, knew the old menu better than anyone. Where'd you find this? His voice went soft, reverent almost. I thought Ronan had thrown it away. It was in the office. Can we make these dishes again? Marcus flipped through the pages, his eyes lighting up at each recipe. Some of these I haven't made in 15 years. People used to line up for the duck confit. And this lamb shank, he kissed his fingers. Perfection. So, we bring them back. Make the Marrow house what it used to be. He looked at me like I'd just suggested we fly to the moon. Do you know how expensive some of these ingredients are? The time it takes. I know. But if we do it right, we can charge what it's worth. Turn this place into a destination, not just a neighborhood spot. Marcus studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled. You know what? Let's do it. Let's make this place legendary again. We started small. Added 2 recipes to the menu as weekend specials. The braised short ribs and a mushroom risotto that Ronan's father had perfected over 20 years. The first Saturday, we sold out by 7. The second Saturday, we had a waiting list. By the 3rd week, food bloggers were posting about us. One called the short ribs transcendent. Another said the Marrow house was serving the best food in the county, hands down. Our revenue doubled, then tripled. Suddenly, we weren't just surviving, we were thriving. But success brought new problems. On a busy Friday night, a woman walked in without a reservation. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, the kind of confidence that comes from never hearing the word no. "Table for two," she announced. Our hostess, Jenny, smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We're fully booked tonight, but I can get you in tomorrow at 6. The woman's expression hardened. "Do you know who I am?" "I don't, actually. I'm Catherine Aldridge. I own half the commercial real estate in this town." She leaned in, voice dropping. "Including the building next door. Which means I could make things very difficult for this little restaurant, if I wanted to." I'd been passing by with a tray of drinks. I set it down carefully and turned to face her. "Is there a problem?" Catherine looked me up and down, dismissive. "Are you the manager?" "Owner. And yes, we're fully booked. But threatening my staff won't change that." Her eyes flashed. "Excuse me? You heard me. We serve people in the order they make reservations. That includes everyone, even real estate moguls." The entire restaurant had gone quiet, everyone watching. Catherine's face turned red. "You just made a very big mistake." "Maybe. But at least I made it with integrity intact." I smiled politely. "Have a good evening, Miss Aldridge." She stormed out. The door slammed behind her. Jenny looked terrified. Corinne, she could try. I picked up my tray. "But we're not changing our values for anyone. That's not who we are." The customers burst into applause. A few even stood up. But as I walked back to the kitchen, my hands were shaking. Catherine Aldridge owned half the town. She could destroy us with a few phone calls if she wanted. Had I just made the biggest mistake of my life? 2 days later, my landlord called. The rent was going up, effective immediately, double what we'd been paying. "I don't understand," I said. "We have a lease, month to month. Says so right in the contract. You can pay the new rate or move out." I pulled out our lease. Read it 3 times. He was right. Ronan had never bothered negotiating a long-term lease. We were vulnerable. "Who told you to raise the rent?" I asked, though I already knew. Silence. "Then, that's not your concern. You've got 30 days to decide." He hung up. I sat in the office, staring at the numbers. The new rent would eat up most of our profits. We'd be back to barely surviving. All because I'd refused to kiss the ring of some entitled real estate mogul. Maeve came by that evening. I showed her the letter. She swore, colorfully and creatively. "Catherine Aldridge. That woman's been a thorn in this town's side for years. Throws her weight around. Expects everyone to bow." Well, I didn't bow. And now she's coming after us. So we fight back.
How?
She owns half the commercial buildings in town, including this one, apparently. We can't win. Maeve's smile turned wicked. Maybe not directly, but I know things about Catherine Aldridge. Things she'd prefer stayed quiet. What kind of things? The kind that involve tax evasion and creative bookkeeping. I used to do books for 3 of her properties, before she fired me for asking too many questions. I stared at her. "You're saying?" "I'm saying she's vulnerable. More vulnerable than she wants anyone to know. And if she wants to play dirty," Maeve cracked her knuckles, "we can play dirty too." Part of me wanted to say no, to take the high road. But the high road would lead to us losing the restaurant. And I hadn't fought this hard just to lose to some bully with expensive shoes. "What do we need to do?" I asked. Maeve pulled out her phone. "Make some calls. Gather evidence. And remind Catherine Aldridge why you don't mess with people who have nothing left to lose." But before we could make the first call, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Hello?" "Miss Daly?" A man's voice. Professional. Cold. "This is Robert Chen from Aldridge Properties. I'm calling to inform you that your lease will not be renewed. You have 60 days to vacate the premises." My heart stopped. "You can't." "We can. And we are. Good evening." The line went dead. I looked at Maeve. "They're evicting us. Then we'd better work fast. Could we expose her before she destroyed us?" Maeve worked her phone like a weapon. 3 calls.
4, 5.
Each one to someone who'd been burned by Catherine Aldridge. Each one willing to talk. By midnight, we had a folder full of evidence. Fake invoices. Properties taxed as residential, but used commercially. Shell companies hiding income. Catherine had been cheating the system for years. This is enough, Maeve said, satisfaction thick in her voice. One anonymous tip to the IRS, and she'll be buried in audits for the next decade. I stared at the folder. If we do this, she'll know it was us. So? She's already trying to evict you. What's she going to do? Evict you harder. She could sue. Claim defamation. Even if she loses, the legal fees would destroy us. Maeve leaned back, studying me. So, what do you want to do? Good question. What did I want? Revenge would feel good. Watching Catherine squirm under federal investigation would be sweet. But it would also be public. Messy. The kind of fight that makes enemies for life. I want to save the restaurant, I said finally. Not start a war. Then we need leverage. Make her back off without actually pulling the trigger.
How?
Maeve smiled. We ask for a meeting. Show her just enough of what we have to make her nervous. Then offer a deal. What kind of deal? She leaves us alone. We leave her alone. Mutually assured destruction. Cold War style. It was risky. Catherine could call our bluff. Laugh in our faces. But Maeve was right. We needed leverage, not warfare. The next morning, I called Aldridge Properties. I'd like to schedule a meeting with Ms. Aldridge. Today, if possible. The receptionist sounded bored. Regarding her recent interest in the Marrow house and some financial documents she might want to discuss privately.
Pause.
Hold, please. 30 seconds later. Ms. Aldridge can see you at 2. Her office was exactly what I expected. Glass and steel. Expensive art. A view of downtown that probably cost more than most people's houses. Catherine sat behind a desk that looked like it belonged in a museum. She didn't stand when I entered. Miss Daly, I'm surprised you wanted to meet. Most people just accept their fate and move on. I'm not most people. I sat down without being invited. Maeve had told me to project confidence, even if I felt like throwing up. I came to discuss your eviction notice. There's nothing to discuss. 60 days. That's generous, considering. Considering what? That I wouldn't give you special treatment? That I run my business with integrity? Her smile was ice. Considering that you insulted me in front of a room full of witnesses. Actions have consequences, Miss Daly. They do. I pulled the folder from my bag and set it on her pristine desk. Which is why I brought these. She glanced at the folder but didn't touch it. What is that? Financial records. From 3 of your properties. Shows some interesting discrepancies between what you report to the IRS and what you actually make. Her expression didn't change, but her hand tightened on her pen. I don't know what you think you have, but I have enough to trigger an audit. Maybe more than one. Enough to make your life very complicated for a very long time. I kept my voice level. But I'm not here to threaten you. Could have fooled me. I'm here to offer a deal. You withdraw the eviction notice. You leave the Marrow house alone. Forever. And these documents stay in this folder. Nobody sees them. Not the IRS. Not the press. Nobody. Catherine opened the folder. Flipped through a few pages. Her jaw tightened. Where did you get these? That's not important. What's important is whether you want them to stay private. She closed the folder slowly. You're blackmailing me. I'm negotiating. There's a difference. We stared at each other across that expensive desk. 2 women who'd both learned that power doesn't come from money or connections or fancy offices. It comes from knowing when to fight and when to deal. If I agree, Catherine said carefully, how do I know you won't come back later? Ask for more? Because I don't want more. I want to run my restaurant in peace. That's it. No war. No drama. Just business. She studied me for a long moment. Then she pressed a button on her desk. Robert? Cancel the eviction notice for the Marrow house. Reinstate their original lease terms. A pause. Ma'am, I thought. Just do it. She released the button and looked at me. Take your folder. Get out of my office. And Miss Daly, if you ever... I won't, unless you give me reason to. I stood, folder in hand. Pleasure doing business with you. I made it to the elevator before my legs started shaking. Made it to my car before I had to grip the steering wheel to stop my hands from trembling. I just blackmailed one of the most powerful people in town. And it worked. Maeve was waiting at the restaurant when I got back. Well, eviction's canceled. She's leaving us alone. Hot damn. Maeve actually hooped. You did it. We did it. I sank into a chair. But Maeve? Let's never do that again. She laughed.
Deal.
That night, service was perfect. The dining room full, the kitchen humming, everything running like clockwork. I stood at the bar, watching it all, and felt something I hadn't felt in months.
Peace.
The Marrow house was safe. Not just for now. For good. We'd faced gambling debts and loan sharks and fraud charges and now eviction. And we'd survived every single one. Because we'd been smarter, tougher, more determined. But as I watched Marcus plate the braised short ribs, the dish that had saved us, I realized something. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about building something that would last. Something people would remember. Something worth fighting for. A couple at table 7 got engaged that night. He got down on one knee.
She said yes.
The whole restaurant applauded. And I thought about Ronan's father's note in that old recipe book. She cried. Good tears. Maybe that's what this place was really about. Not just food or business or real estate games. It was about creating moments people would remember forever. And now it was my job to protect those moments, no matter who tried to take them away. Would you have made the same deal? 6 months after I took over the Marrow house, something unexpected happened. A reporter showed up. Not a food blogger or a local journalist. A real reporter from a regional magazine. She wanted to write a feature about the waitress who became an owner and how one woman saved a beloved restaurant from ruin. I almost said no. The last thing I needed was attention. Attention brought questions. Questions brought scrutiny. And scrutiny might remind people about Ronan and gambling debts and fraud charges that had quietly been dropped. But Maeve convinced me. This is good for business. Free publicity. People love a comeback story. So, I agreed to the interview. The reporter, Amanda, was younger than me. Sharp eyes. Recording device on the table between us. She asked good questions, not softball stuff, but real questions about money and risk and what it felt like to bet everything on a dream. Why did you do it? She asked. Why not just find another waitressing job? Start fresh somewhere else. I thought about that. About all the nights I'd cried in the walk-in freezer when Ronan's father was alive and tips were bad and my feet hurt so much I could barely walk home. About the regulars who became family. About the kitchen crew who taught me to cook and the dishwasher who always saved me the last piece of pie. Because this place was worth saving, I said finally. Not for me. For everyone who'd made it home. Amanda wrote that down word for word. The article came out 3 weeks later. Front page of the lifestyle section. Beautiful photos of the restaurant. Quotes from customers. A whole sidebar about Ronan's father's recipes. And a headline that made my stomach drop. From waitress to owner. How Corinne Daly saved the Marrow house from her boss's gambling addiction. They'd printed everything. The poker game.
The debt.
The forged signature. The fraud charges. All of it. I called Amanda immediately. You said this would be a feel-good story. It is, she said, confused. It's about overcoming adversity. People love that. You made Ronan sound like a villain. Wasn't he? I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. Because she was right. Ronan had been the villain of this story. He'd gambled away his inheritance. Forged my signature. Nearly destroyed everything his father built. But seeing it in print, seeing his failures laid out for thousands of people to read, felt cruel anyway. He made mistakes, I said quietly. But he's still human. Then maybe he shouldn't have treated you like you weren't. She hung up. The article exploded. Within days, We were booked solid for 2 months. Food critics drove in from 3 states away. A TV news crew showed up to film a segment. We couldn't handle the volume. The kitchen was slammed. Wait times stretched to 2 hours. Jenny had to turn away customers every night. It was everything I'd wanted. Success. Recognition. Proof that I'd made the right choice. So why did it feel so wrong? On a rare, quiet afternoon, I was in the office doing paperwork when someone knocked on the door frame. I looked up. Ronan stood there. Thinner than I remembered. Cheaper clothes. The expensive confidence gone, replaced by something quieter.
Sadder.
What are you doing here? I asked. I saw the article. He stepped inside, hands in his pockets. Wanted to congratulate you. Place looks good. Thanks. Awkward silence. He looked around the office, his old office, like he was visiting a museum of his former life. I'm sober now, he said suddenly. 90 days. Going to meetings. The whole thing. That's good. Really?
Yeah.
He laughed, but it had no humor. Turns out losing everything is a pretty good motivator to get your life together. Another silence. I should have asked him to leave. Should have kept the boundary clean. But something in his voice stopped me. Why did you come here, Ronan?
He looked at me then.
Really looked. To say I'm sorry. Not the bullshit sorry from before. A real one. You deserved better than what I put you through. And his voice cracked. I'm glad you saved this place. My dad would have been glad too.
I didn't know what to say.
All the anger I'd carried for months, it was still there, but quieter now. Buried under layers of success and moving forward. I forgive you, I heard myself say. Not because you deserve it, but because I'm tired of carrying it around. He nodded. That's fair. He turned to leave. Stopped at the door. If you ever need anything, he said, references, advice, whatever, call me. I owe you that much. Then he was gone. I sat there for a long time, staring at the empty doorway, thinking about forgiveness and moving forward and whether you could ever really leave the past behind. That night, we had our biggest service yet. Every table full, kitchen firing on all cylinders. The energy in the dining room was electric. But in the middle of the rush, I noticed something. A woman sitting alone at the bar. Older, maybe 60. She'd been nursing the same glass of wine for an hour, watching everything with careful eyes. During a lull, I approached her. Can I get you anything else? She smiled. Just enjoying the atmosphere. This place has good energy. Thank you. I used to come here years ago, when Thomas Keats ran it, before he died. She took a sip of wine. He was a good man. Built this place with his own hands. I know. I worked for him. Did you? Her eyes sharpened with interest. Then you knew him. Really knew him. I did. She set down her glass. I'm Elizabeth Keats, Thomas's sister, Ronan's aunt. My heart skipped. I didn't know he had a sister. We weren't close. I didn't approve of how he was raising Ronan. Too much money. Too little discipline. She looked around the restaurant. But I heard you saved this place. Took it from my nephew before he could destroy it completely. I did what I had to do.
Good.
She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Thomas left me some money when he died. I've been waiting for the right time to invest it. The right place. She slid the envelope across the bar. What is this? A loan. No interest. Pay me back whenever you can.
Use it to expand.
Hire more staff. Whatever you need. I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000. I can't accept this. Yes, you can. Because Thomas would have wanted this place to thrive. And you're the only one who can make that happen. She stood, leaving money for her wine. Don't let my nephew's mistakes define this restaurant's future. Build something bigger. She walked out before I could respond. I stared at the check. $50,000. Enough to expand the kitchen. Upgrade equipment. Hire the staff we desperately needed. Enough to turn the Marrow house into everything it was always meant to be. Maeve found me still standing there 10 minutes later. What's wrong? I showed her the check. She whistled. Where'd that come from? A guardian angel. Or something like it. You going to take it? I thought about Ronan's father. About the recipe book and the careful notes and the life he'd built here. About his sister, who'd waited years to find the right person to trust with his legacy. Yeah, I said. I'm going to take it. Because sometimes the universe gives you exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. And sometimes the best way to honor the past is to build an even better future. What would you do with a second chance at greatness? The expansion took 3 months. We closed the restaurant for the first time in its 40-year history and gutted the kitchen. New equipment, better layout, space for twice as many dishes to be prepared simultaneously. We even knocked out a wall to expand the dining room, added 10 more tables without losing the intimate feeling that made the Marrow House special. The staff helped with everything. Marcus redesigned the kitchen workflow. Jenny mapped out the new seating arrangements. Even the dishwasher, Miguel, suggested improvements to the plumbing that saved us thousands. We reopened on a Saturday in October. The line wrapped around the block. That first night back, we served 200 people. The kitchen didn't miss a beat. Every dish perfect. Every customer happy. I stood in the dining room at midnight after everyone had left, exhausted and exhilarated and proud of what we'd built. Maeve appeared with champagne. Again. It was becoming our tradition. To expansion, she said, pouring 2 glasses. To expansion. We clinked glasses.
Drank.
Sat in comfortable silence while jazz played softly through the new sound system. You know what's funny? I said. A year ago, I was just a waitress. No plans. No ambitions. Just getting through each shift. And now I'm terrified every single day that I'll screw this up. That I'll make a mistake and lose everything. Maeve laughed. That's called being a business owner. The fear never goes away. You just get better at managing it. Does it get easier?
No.
But it gets more rewarding. She gestured around the empty restaurant. Look at what you built. Not just a business. A community. People propose here. Celebrate birthdays. Come after funerals. This place holds people's lives. She was right. In the past year, I'd seen more of life's big moments than I had in all my years before. The joy and grief and love and loss that people brought through our doors. We weren't just feeding them. We were holding space for their stories. I got an offer last week, I said suddenly. Maeve's eyebrows rose. What kind of offer? A restaurant group out of Chicago. They want to franchise the Marrow House. 5 locations across the Midwest. They'd handle everything, financing, management, expansion. I'd just be the name and the face. How much? Enough to retire. Buy a house. Never worry about money again. Maeve studied me. Are you considering it?
Was I?
The offer had been sitting in my desk for a week. I'd read it a dozen times. Done the math. Imagined what that kind of security would feel like. Part of me wants to, I admitted. The part that remembers being broke and scared and not knowing where next month's rent would come from. And the other part? The other part remembers why I fought so hard to keep this place. Not to get rich. Not to build an empire. But to protect something worth protecting. So, what are you going to do? I looked around the restaurant. At the tables Ronan's father had chosen. The bar he'd built. The walls that held decades of memories. I'm going to say no. Maeve smiled.
Good.
Franchises are soulless. This place has soul. It does. And I'm not interested in diluting that for money. We finished our champagne. Turned off the lights. Locked up for the night. Outside, the street was quiet. A few cars passing. The bakery next door already preparing for tomorrow's early morning rush. You know, Maeve said, most people would have taken that franchise deal. I'm not most people.
No.
You're definitely not. She drove away, leaving me standing alone on the sidewalk. I looked up at the sign. The Marrow House, lit up in warm yellow light. This was mine. Really mine. Not because someone gave it to me or because I inherited it. Because I'd fought for it. Bled for it. Refused to let it die. And I'd do it all again without hesitation. The next morning, I called the Chicago restaurant group and declined their offer. They tried to negotiate, offered more money, better terms, partnership opportunities. I said no to all of it, because some things aren't for sale. That week, a young woman came in for lunch. College age, nervous energy. She asked if we were hiring. Actually, we are. What position are you interested in? Anything. I just need a job. Somewhere I can learn and work hard, and maybe she stopped.
Sorry.
I'm talking too much. No, you're not. Why here? Why the Marrow House? She pulled out her phone, showed me the article, the one about the waitress who became an owner. I read this and thought, maybe if she could do it, maybe I could too. Not own a restaurant, but build something. Be something more than just what? Just surviving. I looked at this girl, barely 20, working multiple jobs probably, trying to make something of herself in a world that didn't care. I'd been her, not that long ago. Can you start Monday? I asked. Her eyes went wide. Really? Don't you need to check my references, or? I need someone who wants to learn. Someone who'll work hard. Someone who sees this place as more than just a paycheck. I smiled. That's you, right?
Yes. God, yes.
Thank you. Her name was Sarah. Within a month, she was the best server we had. Within 6 months, I was training her on management duties. Because that's what the Marrow House was now. Not just a restaurant, but a place where people could become more than they were. Where waitresses could become owners. Where second chances were always on the menu. 1 year after taking over, I stood in the same spot where I'd hidden behind the bar that first night. Where I'd seen Ronan with a lone shark. Where everything had changed. The dining room was full. Music playing. Laughter echoing. Life happening. And I thought about how close I'd come to walking away that night. To leaving my bag and never coming back. To letting Ronan's mistakes bury us both. But I'd turned around. Fought back. Refused to let betrayal write the ending of my story. And now here I was. Owner. Boss. The person responsible for this place and everyone in it.
It was terrifying.
Overwhelming. The best decision I'd ever made. Marcus appeared beside me. We're running low on short ribs. Want me to order more?
Yeah. Double the usual amount.
We're going to need them. He grinned. Business is good. Business is great. He headed back to the kitchen. I stayed where I was, watching the organized chaos of a busy service. This was my life now. This was what I'd chosen. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Not even a franchise deal. Not even security. Not even the promise of an easier path. Because easy paths don't build character. They don't teach you what you're capable of. They don't show you that sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best transformations. That sometimes you have to lose everything to find out what you're really made of. And what I was made of. Steel and determination and stubborn refusal to quit. Which was exactly what the Marrow House needed. What would your transformation look like? 3 years after taking over the Marrow House, Corinne Daly receives a call from Ronan, her former boss who once betrayed her. He's sober, in love, and getting married. Shocked but supportive, she attends his small wedding and sees a man transformed. When he thanks her for saving his father's legacy and teaching him accountability, Corinne realizes that letting go of her resentment has brought her peace, not because he earned forgiveness, but because she deserved freedom. Later, Sarah, a young waitress Corinne mentored, asks to buy into the business. Though hesitant, Corinne sees herself in Sarah and agrees. 10%, earned through work. Within months, Sarah's leadership helps open a second location, then a third. The Marrow House becomes more than a restaurant, a living testament to second chances and community. Critics call it the best-kept secret in the Midwest, but for Corinne, the real reward lies in the people. The laughter, tears, and milestones shared around their tables. 5 years after she first took over, the staff celebrates their success. During the party, Sarah surprises Corinne with an offer to buy her out partially, enough for Corinne to rest and live. Corinne resists, torn between exhaustion and attachment. After days of reflection, She agrees on one condition: Sarah must preserve the Marrow house's soul. They sign the papers. Corinne keeps 40% and peace of mind. With her newfound wealth, she starts the Thomas Keats Second Chance Fund to help others rebuild. Students, single parents, dreamers, even Ronan, now starting a nonprofit for gambling recovery. When he breaks down in gratitude, Corinne assures him that second chances aren't given, they're earned. A decade after her fateful return to retrieve her bag that rainy night, Corinne sits in the quiet restaurant, sunlight streaming in. Sarah, now a poised 33-year-old leader, joins her. They reflect on how a forgotten locket and a moment's courage changed everything. Do you regret it? Sarah asks. Corinne smiles. Not for a second. Every sleepless night and gray hair was worth it to build something real, proof that betrayal can become the foundation for rebirth. Before leaving, Sarah tells her she's inspired countless entrepreneurs. Corinne shrugs it off, but Sarah insists. That's what heroes always say. Alone again, Corinne looks around, the restaurant alive with laughter and clatter, realizing the Marrow house embodies survival, turning pain into purpose, fire into fuel. Her phone buzzes, a message from a waitress named Jennifer, desperate to save her boss's diner from his gambling debts. Corinne replies instantly, "Meet me tomorrow at 2. We'll figure this out together." Because that's what survivors do, they lift others, turning scars into maps for those still in the dark. As the sun sets, Corinne locks up, ready to help another lost soul tomorrow. She's learned that the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. Building something so beautiful that those who doubted you spend their lives wondering what could have been if they'd chosen integrity over arrogance. She smiles beneath the stars, no longer a waitress, but a builder of second chances. The story closes with Corinne's voice inviting the audience. Subscribe, share, and reflect. Have you ever fought back after betrayal? Have you ever reclaimed what was yours? Because sometimes the most powerful victories are born from the moments you decide to turn back, face the fire, and build your empire from the ashes.